This is Kathy with the North Carolina Zoo talking about Wild About Nature. Today I wanted to introduce to you a STEAM activity that would be really good, probably for older kids. It's called Design a Pollinator Activity. I want to give you a little background information, then we'll dig into the materials and activity. So, what is a pollinator? You probably have heard of these guys, butterflies, and very famous pollinator, bees. But there's some more. There are a couple that only come out at night, or types of pollinators. The moth, right? And the bat. They're both very important pollinators. And then another daytime pollinator is a bird. Around here we have the ruby-throated hummingbird. So all of these pollinators have a few things in common. Be thinking about that when you're designing your pollinator. They all fly. They're all fairly small. Some specialize in daytime, some specialize at night. And think about, well, what they do and how they do it. We're going to give you a little bit more background information. So, pollinator is an animal that helps move pollen from flower to flower. What is pollen? If you notice all that yellow stuff that's spin out in the spring, it's a little fine yellow powder that you might find if you shake a plant, or you might see a lot of that coating outside, maybe on a vehicle or something. Right now, our invasive honeysuckle species is blooming and it smells great. And a lot of us like to pull it apart and taste the nectar. Very, very sweet. Anyway, so these animals get this pollen and transport it. Why do they need to do that? Well, plants cannot make more plants on their own. They have to have the pollinators to transport that pollen for them. And if you like apples and bananas and strawberries, and if you like pizza and spaghetti, you need the plants, things the plants produce from the pollen. So we need pollinators. They're important. So how do they work? Okay, so we'll just take the Monarch Butterfly as an example. It flies. It has really big compound eyes. So really big eyes with lots of lenses so they can see a lot of things we can't see. And they will land, here's their feet. They actually can taste the flower with their feet. It's kind of cool. And then they take this tongue of theirs that has a fancy name, proboscis, and it's curled up for making them more able to fly, so a little more aerodynamic. But then when they land on the plant, they uncurl it and stick it way down in there where the nectar is, that sweet stuff in the honeysuckle that we like to consume. They like that nectar, and they use that tongue to dip down in there. Now me, if I were a pollinator, well, I'd kind of be a little too big to fly very well. But how would I be able to drink something out of a flower? No hands to hold it like I can a cup. And, well, my tongue, not very good at sucking. But a straw works well for that. So think if my tongue were like a straw, hollow and long and thin, then I could get it down in that flower, get that nectar. Just like if you ever watch, in fact, I've got a hummer on my feet right now. If you ever watch a hummingbird, they've got a very thin little tongue. It's clear and it's hollow, just like a straw, just like the proboscis on the butterfly. And that is what they use to suck up the nectar. So remember that when you're designing your pollinator. So they use all these unique adaptations to get that nectar. And while they're busy getting their nourishment from the nectar, you'll notice there's a little fuzz on these animals. And that fuzz helps them do the pollinating. Because while they're in that flower getting that nectar, that fuzz is picking up pollen. And then when they visit flower to another flower to another flower, that pollen is transferred from one flower to the next to the next. And bees have a really cool thing on behind their knees. Have you ever heard the expression bee's knees? Behind their knees, they have it's like a little basket to collect their pollen in, but they'll also collect it on that nice fuzzy stuff, the fuzzy fur. So that's sort of, in a nutshell, the process and what happens. Why do we care about that? Like I said, a lot of the foods we love to eat, in fact, about a third of what we eat we wouldn't have without pollinators. And scientists have noticed that the numbers of pollinators is going down. So that's not good. Why is that happening? One biggie is something called pesticides. So we like our yards with lots of green grass, and we want green grass, not a lot of weeds. Well, those weeds are actually good because they're native pollinator plants. But anyway, so to keep out the weeds, a lot of people will put things on their yard, chemicals, to kill the weeds and make their green grass green and healthy. Well, that's not good for our native pollinators that are flying around trying to get nectar from those little weeds and move them around and around. You know, kind of like dandelions. We all love dandelions, right? So that's one of the things, pesticides. Another thing is there's some diseases that are attacking some of our iconic insects. That's not good. And then the third big thing is loss of habitat. Habitat is where they live. So the less weeds we have, the more we develop, the more trees we knock down and pour cement and cover things over to build buildings and so forth, the less wild things are out there for them to eat, consume, and build their homes where they live. So those are just some of the problems that they're dealing with right now. And so because we depend so heavily on honeybees, for example, for pollinating our crops, big thing for farmers, they've got to have their crops pollinated. And with less and less of them, some scientists have thought, well, we'll just make a bionic bee or a robotic bee. So here's what we're going to have you do. Here's the activity part. We're going to have you try out your design build skills, STEM activity, to make your robotic bee. Now, it really doesn't have to have a processor in it and move like, you know, like the Lego robotics. They're really fancy, and hey, if you've got that stuff, go for it. We'd love to see it. But if you want to take a look, we just put out some sample stuff that you might happen to have around the house to help you put together your robotic or bionic bee or pollinator. You could model it on a bee, butterfly, moth, bat, hummingbird, whatever your favorite is. Some of the things that we just sort of thought might be cool or helpful. Clay. I love clay, but we all may not have that at home. There are recipes online. You can make Play-Doh with common household materials like salt and flour and a little water. Easy thing to do. A lot of us use these in our bathrooms, cotton swabs, clear tape, good old duct tape, bits and pieces of paper, maybe some yarn, string, toothpicks, fuzzy sticks, or in the old days, pipe cleaners is what we used to call them. Some markers, something you may want to add some color to your pollinator. Color's a big deal. Craft sticks or popsicle sticks are good and handy to work with. Straws. Now I know plastic straws aren't good for the environment, especially if we're careless. But we're going to be careful with ours, and when we're done, we're going to throw our plastic straws in the trash. One thing you might want to think about, maybe cutting those plastic straws up makes them a little easier to work with. You may have some of these leftover toilet paper and paper towel tubes, since we're using a lot of those products right now. Wire bits, rubber bands, scissors that come in handy for cutting your string. Bottle caps. I love doing stuff with bottle caps. And I like to say odds and ends, because you may have something in your house that I hadn't thought of that's a like super duper cool way to build something. Like my husband was looking at the pollinator I made, and he said, you know, you could use those little plastic golf balls that we use for practice. So, hey, there may be other things like marbles or old clothespins or corks or bits of fabric. Think about it, just what you might come up with if you were making your own pollinator. Now, to kind of help you think about how to make this animal that has all these amazing adaptations, if you can go out in the yard or park nearby with an adult and observe some blooming flowers right now, great thing. If you can't, I got you covered, because we have put online on our Facebook page, we've got a couple of documents. One has pictures of pollinators and flowers. Most of these pictures come from Kids Zone. We have a fabulous butterfly garden there, so I've been very fortunate to be able to snap a lot of pictures of the different plants there so you can get an idea of what some flowers might look like. You might want to notice the colors, the structures, where is the nectar in this thing, so what would you have to get down in there to get that nectar. And then we've also put some pictures of some pollinators just to help you get some ideas. I also have a little question for you on the pollinator page because I've got the moth, the bat, hummingbird, butterfly. What's the one I didn't put on there? See if you can figure that one out. But just to give you an idea, look at color, shape, size, adaptations. They all fly, they don't swim in the water, different things like that. They go where the flowers are so they can do their thing. But I want to just give you a quick look at my pollinator that I made. Don't want to give you ideas or cramp your creativity, but I put some wings on mine. They're see-through wings. I have like fake eye spots and bright red for sort of camouflage to scare off predators with the big eyes. Red is sort of a warning color. These are my compound eyes, my antenna, my proboscis, my feet that I can taste the flowers with. So see what you come up with. We'd love to see your creations. And if you would like to share your creations with us, why don't you upload them as a comment on our Facebook page? We'd love to see what you get. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time on Wild About Nature.